INEC weighs option of electronic voting as the electoral umpire today takes a demo of electronic voting machines in Abuja. And 36 states have sued President Buhari over the executive order he signed on funding of the judiciary. We give you details of our story in a moment. Hello everyone and welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbalo in Lagos. Let's start off before we get into the matter of electronic voting. You might be wondering, electronic voting, wait a minute, what happened to United States 4 years ago when there were allegations that Russia meddled in their elections? What are we getting ourselves into? But if you remember what happened in Edo State where results were digitally transmitted, so you get a sense of what we might be getting into and the future of Nigeria election. But before we get into all of that, let me tell you about this story. The 36 states of the Federation have dragged the federal government before the Supreme Court challenging the Presidential Executive Order number 0010 of 2020 signed in May by the President Muhammadu Buhari. The states are seeking an order of the court quashing President Muhammadu Buhari's executive order and the funding of courts for being unconstitutional. Listed as the sole respondent in the suit is the Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Abubakar Malami. The suit is filed on their behalf by 9 senior advocates of Nigeria, led by a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Mr. Augustine Alege, and 6 other senior lawyers. They claim that by virtue of the executive order, the president had pushed the federal government's responsibility of funding both the capital and recurrent expenditures of the state high court, Sharia courts of the appeal, and the customary courts of appeal to the state government. They also are asking the Supreme Court to order the federal government to make a refund to them, claiming that they had been funding the capital project in the listed courts since 2009. So there was a demo of the test the electronic voting machine that was done in Abuja. 40 companies came forward for that today. That's what we're going to discuss and what INEC is doing about that. But before we get into that conversation that we have for you tonight on the program, let's check out some of your political roundup stories.
Center for Citizens with Disabilities.
The Inspector General of Police, Abubakar Adamu, has assured the nation, particularly the people of Ondo State, of the commitment of the Nigeria Police Force to replicate the gains recorded by the force and other security agencies during the Edo election for the forthcoming October 10, 2020 Ondo elections. The IGP gave the assurance today when the conveners, Clement Nwankwo, and members of the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room met with the IGP at the force headquarters, Abuja.
You had assured us that the police was on top of the situation and was prepared to be fair to all, but also firm in ensuring that the elections were conducted in a peaceful environment.
We're going to be professional, we're going to be impartial, and we will create a level playing field for all the electors to elect whoever they wanted to.
The former governor of Delta State, Dr. Emmanuel Dwagan, has returned to the People's Democratic Party after about 2 years in the All Progressives Congress. Dr. Dwagan was formally received by the PDP this morning in his hometown Abigborodo in Warri North local government area of the state. Party faithful also gathered as witnesses as he received the membership card of the People's Democratic Party again. Dr. Dwagan left the PDP about 2 years ago to seek the mandate to represent Delta South at the Senate, but was defeated by Senator James Manager of the People's Democratic Party. A group of APC stakeholders under the aegis of the Zone Leaders Forum have lauded the achievements of Governor Uzodima's administration in Imo State in the last 8 months of his assumption of office. The leader of the group, Lemi Akakem, told newsmen in Owerri after a meeting that the governor's achievements in the past month are feasible and people-oriented, and the government's commitment to the welfare of civil servants and the less privileged in Imo State cannot be overemphasized. The meeting also witnessed the inauguration of a critical committee to propel the assignment of the group in the state. It appears the two factional heads of the All Progressives Congress in Enugu State are putting their house in order ahead of the State House of Assembly by-elections scheduled for October the 31st. The by-election became necessary following the death of the lawmaker representing issues or constituency in the State House of Assembly. While the Director General of the Voice of Nigeria commended members who returned to his own faction, asking them to stay put, the Minister of Foreign Affairs said he will set up a committee that will look into grievances of members of his faction.
So it's now very important that we can beat our chest and say we have a governor and we have a government that is responsive.
This very day, or those four governors can select for me maybe one from each local government that will constitute an advisory think tank body to also help me in engaging with the state and affairs of the state.
Thank you so much, everyone, and let's get into it. So, a lot of you will be making and quoting situation in other climes where perhaps they've tried electronic voting. A lot of people have said it. Why do we have to go through all the stress on an election day where people have to queue under the sun and in the rain just to vote? Well, tonight we shall be taking a closer look at what technology can do for Nigerian election. We saw the introduction of digital transmission of results in Edo State and perhaps the sort of reaction which trailed the exercise. Today, the electoral umpire INEC appears to be thinking of that sort of idea, the use of more technology. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says it is moving a step closer towards electronic voting and collation of results as the commission holds a demonstration of what electronic voting will look like with over 40 manufacturers of e-voting machines in Abuja there to demonstrate. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu notes that the demonstration is the first step in a series of steps to take towards the introduction of e-voting in Nigeria's electoral system. Meanwhile, some experts have been calling on the National Assembly to reintroduce and pass the 2018 Electoral Bill into law in order to provide for e-voting, e-collation of results, and the creation of Electoral Offences Commission. Oh, we have such a mouthful conversation tonight, isn't it? Topic to chew. Let's look at what INEC did today and the implications for our elections. I have the INEC National Commissioner, Dr. Mustafa Aleki, in our Abuja studio, and also the Senate Committee Chair in INEC, former Governor of Kano State, Senator Kabir Gaya. He wears two hats tonight. He's going to be talking as a politician, and on the other hand, the fact that what is delaying the bill and the passage of the electoral law. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us tonight, and let's get to it. Perhaps let's ask Dr. Lekki, our friend from INEC. Dr. Lekki, what do you have of your sleeves at INEC? You want to have an e-voting exercise. So for a lot of Nigerians, clarify for us, which process are we going to be having electronic or technology? Is it at the voting stage, at the counting stage, or at the collation stage? At which stage are we going to be having this kind of machine that you want to test today?
Thank you very much, Sheon, for having me here. And a very good question, to start with. You have asked a question about at what stages are we deploying this technology, particularly the EVM machine that we are starting the process, today. I think first of all, the first thing Nigerians need to recognize is that what INEC does technologically is determined by what the electoral, law allows us to do. Right now, we have some kind of, we have a provision that allows INEC to determine the methods of voting in Nigeria. So that allows us to be able to experiment with all kinds of technology that help to deepen the electoral process. So what we had today, coming back to the issue of today, which is the EVM, electronic voting machine, It's the very first step in a fairly long journey, depending on how things go. And essentially to look at how do we begin to explore the possibility of bringing electronic voting machines into our electoral process. The emphasis here is on the voting machine. We've had a number of technology in our electoral process, as you will know. We have an electronic voters register, which is the biggest in Africa. Over 80 or so million Nigerians are this electronic voter register. It's an electronic format. We also have the popularly known permanent voters card, which allows people to identify themselves. We've also deployed the use of smart card reader, which is a device that allows somebody to be authenticated and verify that it's truly the owner of the permanent voters card and is eligible to vote in a designated polling unit. So these are all many things we have done in the area of deploying electronics in our election. And only recently, again, you see what we tried in Nasarawa as well as in Edo State by the introduction of a ZPAC, which allows us to do electronic publishing of results from polling units. Let me just correct that it is not a transmission device. It's simply for us because there's no provision right now in the law that allows us to do electronic transmission of results. I need to really emphasize that. What we did was to deepen transparency by almost simultaneously, promptly publishing results as they occur in a polling unit so that everybody can view it anywhere in the world, wherever they are. So that is where we are. And so today is a very significant step in something we expect to be a quick, short journey, permitting that the National Assembly, thank God that we have Senator Gaya here with us, who is our boss in the Senate, chairing the committee on INEC, that they will make sure that all the enabling legislation is provided that enable this to go forward, because this is the yearning of Nigerians. If you remember, we did a stakeholder consultation right after the 2019 election, which was very extensive across the country. One of the key recommendations that came from that consultation was we need to move in the area of electronic voting. And so that is where we are now, moving in that very direction.
Okay, so you've raised a very important matter. I know it's a matter of nomenclature when you said transmission, of course. Technically, that's what that ZIPA did, but by issue of law, which brings me to Senator Gaya. Senator Gaya, let me come to you quickly. You and your colleagues, I remember when you came to Lagos, you told Nigerians that Nigerians should expect a vibrant law that will change the face of our election in Nigeria. There is no law yet that backs what INEC is trying to do today. Where are we as regarding the amendment of the electoral law?
Well, first of all, good evening, Seun and Nigerians. I'm happy to be here to also enlighten Nigerians on how far we have gone, how far the National Assembly have gone on this amendment of the Act. We had our own retreat. Later, we had a retreat with also a lot of stakeholders, including the INEC themselves, and even the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation, so they could be guided on, or they could be informed on what we are doing, and they'll be part of the process. We had a retreat in Lagos. It took us a few days there, and we went through all the submissions that we have with us at that time in ideas or ways of which we could be able to come up with the best electoral act of this time. And we look at the areas where there are suggestions we need to amend, especially when we talk about the issue of electoral voting. What are the systems, what are the procedures? Even though before, after 2015, it was an electoral act that we agreed that INEC can do any form of election procedure which is suitable to them and which may be suitable to Nigerians. So it includes also electronic voting. But clearly now we are putting electronic voting clearly into the system and look at the areas where it could be of benefit, and where we have problems, we also try to put up some caveat on that area. So therefore, the law itself, we are in the process. We could have done some public hearing, but because of the COVID-19, we had to suspend. Now we are back. We are going back tomorrow to the National Assembly, and we expect the House to also do the second reading of the bill, so that we don't have to do different public hearings. We can do joint public hearing with the House of Rep members, so that we can save time and be able to get this act ready for passing the concurring the third reading in the Senate, and then pass to the President for signing. Also, look at areas where President raised objection during the 8th Senate when we passed the Electoral Act. There are areas of observations where the president also raised observations, and we now look at those areas and made corrections to those areas. And that is why we involve in this sitting. The sitting we involve the Office of the Attorney General so that they could be part of our discussion. After we finish our law or pass to the president for sign, I'm sure he will ask the Attorney General Office to respond. By them being part of us, I'm sure the response will be positive because they'll be part of the discussion. So therefore, the act is important. We are working on the act, and I am assuring Nigerians that very soon we'll be able to pass this, pass the law, and then we can go ahead. But the issue, which may not have been finalized, is the issue of electronic voting transfer of results, which I know, as you just said earlier, that even the United States of America had problems on these electronic transfers, and that they could be hacked. So in Nigeria, we're thinking of that too. We have a stable democracy now. We don't want to come into an area whereby the democracy will be truncated by having this unauthenticated transfer of results. And that is why now the INEC are having a presentation by companies who
Senator,
are
just a moment.
eligible to do this
Let
job.
me,
And based
apologies
on,
to cut into that line of thought. That is going to be a focus that we'll be having when we return from this break, because we have a literacy level of 62% in Nigeria, internet penetration of 47%. These are issues around the usage of e-voting in Nigeria. We take a break, and when we come back on the issue of technology and the future of Nigeria's elections. Join us again.
The Commission has been working on the deployment of technology in voting during elections to replace the current manual system, which is tedious and requires enormous logistics. The Commission is aware that Nigerians want us to deepen the use of technology in elections. Let me reassure each and every Nigerian that the Commission is committed to expediting the process leading to the deployment of electronic voting machines in elections in earnest.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's get back to the conversation. The conversation we are having tonight is on technology and Nigeria's elections. Can we go the whole hog to introduce electronic voting in our elections? So we have Senator Kabir Gaya, Senate Committee Chair on INEC, and Dr. Mustafa Lekki, INEC National Commissioner. They've been speaking to us before we went on that break. And let me get back to Dr. Lekki. Before we go into, the senator told us when we should expect the law to be passed. But there are some technicalities here involved. Some people will say electronic voting is a bad idea, considering the advancement of technology around the world and the issues of hacking. But first and foremost is the issue of literacy level in Nigeria. How many of the less than 100 million voters we have in Nigeria can read and write and use technology? The other issue is internet. Nigeria presently has about less than 50% of its population of internet penetration of its total population. How do you hope to be able to achieve this when we're still having problems with the smart card readers?
Okay, thank you again, Sheon. If we start by listing the challenges that we face, we will never do anything, clearly. So the thing is, how do we adapt to make sure that we're able to take maximum advantage of what we have and make the most benefit, from it? One thing is that this present commission is very, very, very inclined to deployment of technology. Even before the 2019 general elections, we were in communication, in very serious discussion with the NCC, Nigerian Constitutional Commission, to look at how do we do this issue, thinking ahead, how do we bring further technology to our election? And we did a mapping to show how the coverage of all the MNO, the major network operators like MTN, Nitel, Airtel, and so on, Glo are covering all our PUs where they are distributed across the country. We found there were significant gaps. So in order to, just to understand, to play into what we have just said, significant gaps in the coverage. So those will be issues. But that doesn't mean that we cannot get around this issue. We can get around these issues. We just have to make sure that we are conversant with our terrain. We have, technology that is well suited for our own environment, and then go, from there. If, for example, you want to to upload our result sheets from the polling units, and you're unable to do it, you can move to a place closer to where the MNOs have a presence. Almost every local government headquarters in Nigeria has some kind of presence of one or two, if not more, major MNOs, where like Airtel and Glo and MTN. And so we can start from there. So there are many technological solutions that will help us to abridge some of all these difficulties. Clearly, the issue of illiteracy is an issue, but we cannot use, like I said, we cannot use these challenges as a hindrance. People are using telephones in the villages. They are not illiterate. They are finding a way around it. We are seeing the proliferation of POS, as a way of doing backward integration of banking. Beyond our thinking a few years ago. So let us have the feeling that once there is a will, there is a way. And we believe that in INEC, there is a will. And INEC is committed to this journey of bringing more and more technology that will ensure integrity and transparency and trust in the electoral process. And so we're going to be working with people and then going forward. And there are many Nigerians who are very savvy, who knows what kind of technology will work best in our environment.
Let me bring back Senator Gaya into the conversation. Senator Gaya, can you tell Nigerians, because so that INEC is not working on what eventually will not be adaptable into the law, is the issue of electronic voting part of your recommendation for the amendment of the Electoral Act?
Sorry?
I was asking, so that INEC is not just running in the dark, is the issue of electronic voting, is it on the table in the recommendation for the amendment of the Electoral Act?
Yeah, electronic voting is part of the points of or areas raised in the Electoral Act. Therefore, it is there. So whatever they are doing, they're on track. Because we had a meeting, I told you earlier, with them. They know what is in the coming up in the bill, because they made their own contribution based on their experience at the site of the elections, where they held the elections, the experiences, the challenges they face, and which we could be able to improve and save them from all those troubles they went through. So I think they are fully aware of what is going on in the bill, especially on the issue of the Electoral Act. Therefore, it is there, electronic voting is there. The only issue which we have not put in there is the electronic transfer of results. That's not part of the bill. But maybe when we do a public hearing and there is views by majority of Nigerians, they wanted that, then we are working for the Nigerians, and we have to serve the Nigerian interest. And secondly, we have to also, if we agree on electronic voting, they have to find ways of which that could be perfected. Not a way that we could leave it in a loophole where we will have problems or will have manipulation of results. And I'm sure those who are also the companies that are doing presentation at INEC, I'm sure they must come with those they should answer those challenges so that INEC could be satisfied on which company could do best in this election procedures or election way of conducting election in Nigeria by electronic voting. So I believe that we are working together in such a way we could have something good for this country, by God's grace.
Just a quick one, Senator, just a straightforward question with a simple answer. When do you think we can get the Electoral Act amended? Can you give us a date that can happen? You are the chair of the committee.
I hope and believe that by end of October, we'll get it ready out of the National Assembly to be passed to Mr. President for signing. We are working hard on that respect, and I assure you we'll be able to make it within the next 1 month.
That's good news, and we'll be following up. But let me quickly get a final thought from Dr. Lekki. Brazil, India are some of the countries that have tested and utilized the electronic voting. South Africa also, they've gone in that way. Which model? And also, America is also using some form of e-voting. No, it's not the old org. And that was why I was asking that question. At what stage will Nigeria implement or introduce electronic technology? But that's going to be a deeper conversation for another day. But which model is Nigeria using? Is it the Indian model, the American model, the South African model, or the Brazilian model?
Well, I can tell you we're not using any of those models, and they're not necessarily the models that we must use. We're going to use the model that the legal framework allows us to use. But let me also quickly say that the EVM that we are contemplating now is already covered by the existing legal framework. We don't need any further tweaking of the legal framework to do the electronic voting machine. Clearly, the challenges is going forward and trying to do electronic transmission of results as well as collation of results electronically. Those are the challenges that we expect that Senator Gaya and his colleagues, the National Assembly, will help us deal with. But the EVM as a machine, as a tool, as a method, is already covered by the existing legal framework, so there's no issue. And what method we are going to use is what exactly we're exploring now. So we are listening and learning by having vendors from all kinds of countries, including Nigeria, including Nigerian agencies who say they have the know-how to come and present to us. So as they are presenting, we are refining our specification as to what kind of way we are going to go. We're also learning by listening. We have not committed the actual procurement process of the EVM yet because we need to make sure we fine-tune our specification to make sure we get something that works best for Nigeria in this situation. So this is clearly an exploratory method of talking to vendors who have voluntarily made themselves available to display what they have. As they display what they have, we will learn more, we will choose, and then we'll go forward and fine-tune and then commence the due process in terms of procurement. But like I said, we already have the legislative framework
so we need to close the program now.
EVM.
So we need to close the program. Let me ask you in just a straightforward answer, if you like, Dr. Lekki. When do you hope to start experimenting with the EVM? There is an October 30 or 31st election, and there are some elections also next year. When do you hope to start experimenting? Just a quick one.
We believe that as soon as by next year, certainly around the time we have the Anambra election, which is later in the year, we should be in a position to begin to deploy the EVM. So I think that will give you a time scale as to what we are looking at in terms of our target.
Thank you. Senator Gaya, we have 10 seconds to get your final thought. Senator Gaya.
Well, let me just assure Nigerians that we'll do the best we can to be able to give them what Nigerians need in terms of having a transparent election, and that people, even the opposition, or only all the political parties, will be confident in the way the election is conducted. This is what we are planning. This is what we are hoping for Nigeria, and I believe we can achieve that with the support of all Nigerians on this, and then the INEC itself coming to work along to explain to us. Even the voting machines they are looking through now by the vendors, we also need to know how it is, how it could be satisfied, and then what we need to put input to be to the Nigerian standard or Nigerian
Senator Kabiru Gaya, Chairman, Senate Committee on INEC, and Dr. Mustapha Lekki is National Commissioner of INEC. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming tonight. I appreciate you enlightening Nigeria.
Okay, thank you very much, too.
Thank you, Sheon. Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. And show tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sheon Kimale. Bye for now.